Welcome to Better Together.
I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Tony. And we want to talk to you about relevant topics concerning your relationships, conversation, marriage, family, children, all of that good stuff. So what are we talking about today?
How about dating?
Dating.
Interesting in our current culture.
Yes, people ask me all the time, hey, when should I let my children date? At what age did you allow your children to date? So you've got something written there that kind of embodies our attitude.
So our philosophy was, you can't support them, you can't court them.
Now think about that. If you can't support them, you can't court them. Now, you may not use that terminology or whatever, and that may not have been something that we actually verbalized, but there was a lot of thought that kind of undergird that. But think about how much sense that makes. Mm-hmm. Very often, there's three major components that we would encourage that you consider before allowing your children to get involved with the opposite sex. And dating should only be with the opposite sex. All right. I'm not even going to discuss that. Don't send me any bad comments or anything.
We believe in male and female.
Yes, they were made that way, and that works in reality, and so we'll stick with that. All right. If you've got other issues,
looking to redefine it.
So let's
look somewhere else.
So back to center. Here we go. So when should you allow your children to date or to court?
Right. Well, how about when they're mature enough?
Okay, so when we talk about areas of maturity, there are three major areas of maturity that you absolutely have to consider. So here's what you want to ask yourself. Is my child emotionally ready? Is my child emotionally mature enough to date or to court, whatever you want to call it? Yeah. And if your answer is absolutely not, there you go. You've got that answer. Now, how you convince the child of that? Well, you're the parent, and it's times like these where you have to actually parent. And hopefully, if dating is even on the table, you're at that point where you're able to communicate and rationalize and help talk them through. They will probably know whether or not they are emotionally prepared.
Maybe
for dating. Yeah. So what's another area? Emotionally?
I would say financially.
Financially.
How about that one?
Yeah, and
we don't consider that.
Yeah, and that's
often enough. I don't believe.
No, and that's why we said if you can't support them, you can't court them. Maybe that's talking to some guy who wants to date my daughter, or talking about my son who wants to date somebody else. I mean, if one thing leads to another, are you serious and are you prepared financially? So we talk about, are you prepared mentally? Are you prepared financially? And I'm not saying that you have to put your life on hold until you have $65,000 in the bank account. That's
not
of course,
at all.
Unless you're dating my daughter, and then that might be a good anyway. But the other
our daughter.
So emotionally prepared, emotionally mature, and are they spiritually mature? In other words, are they anchored enough to make godly decisions? Because if you take the emotions and you take the hormones and you take all of that and you put it in that soup of convenience and opportunity, it can spell something really bad in that alphabet soup. So are they emotionally mature? And are they spiritually mature enough to date? So if you've made it past those, consider the financial aspect. But what about the other one? Are they mentally mature enough?
Right. And I would say you would really have to probably have some serious heart-to-heart conversations. I think that's why it's so important that you be involved in your children's lives.
Yeah. So people would say, and maybe you've made some mistakes. Let's talk about this. Maybe, because I'll just tell you, your 12-year-old is not emotionally, mentally, spiritually, or even physically prepared to date. If you're allowing them to do that, I'm going to ask you very humbly, please reconsider. Okay, once you turn certain things on hormonally or relationally, it's really hard to put that toothpaste back in the tube. But let me tell you, you can. And you say, well, I have, and I've made some mistakes. So what are some things that you can do to correct the course if you've deviated and maybe allowed your children to be in relationships that they were not emotionally, spiritually, and mentally prepared for? What are some ways that you can help right that ship?
Man, those are great questions. I'm even trying to think of how we navigated those.
We avoided those. We didn't have that. I have seen it. I have seen people do that, and the only way to really navigate that effectively is relationally.
I was about to say that. I think, I said earlier, you have to be involved in your children's lives, and you have to be willing to put your life on hold, the things that you might once have had time to do, especially as they get older. You have to put those things down and be really intentional. And I don't think that we're saying no, but we are saying not yet.
Right.
So maybe it's if you've had that time and you're having to right the ship, maybe it's having your house be opened for friends to come over, but you are there. You are guiding and directing.
All right. Do not let little boys into your daughter's bedroom
No.
unsupervised. There's a lot of common sense things.
Yeah.
But here's kind of a big one. And I think this helped with my daughters. And I think my sons are getting it. They're a little younger. They're coming into that age now. But with my daughters, for them to understand that I wanted them to be married. I wanted them to be in good, healthy relationships.
We wanted that.
Yeah, but
we have that.
But their identity, now this is huge, and it really paid off for us. Their identity is not in who they marry. Their identity is found in Jesus. So that's why the spiritually mature aspect is so important. And very often, dads, I want to speak to you, fathers, it's incredibly important that you have the hearts of your daughters. If you have given those hearts away or allowed them to give those hearts away at very young ages, it's going to be very, very difficult. You should have your daughter's heart and continue to keep your daughter's heart, not abdicate it over to their friends on the sports team. Yeah. And that's what we're inclined to do.
Or their social media.
Or their church youth group even. Yeah. And so how do you keep your children's heart, number one? Number two, how do you help them understand that you are for them having relationships, but healthy relationships? And how do you help bring them along in the emotional, spiritual, and mental maturity necessary to navigate relationships? We're grown, and it's hard for us. And if you're married, you're probably going, yeah, I can relate. And you try to throw that very adult thing onto a child.
Man, yeah.
It's just not responsible. How about that? It's just not a responsible thing to do from their perspective or from our perspective as a parent.
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
Bye.
Be wise when it comes to making those choices. And this is a huge one, and this was for us. Be in agreement. Be on the same sheet of music. Incredibly important.
Yeah, I would say be in agreement. Be available, and if they have questions, don't be afraid to have an answer and to give a reason why you believe what you believe.
One more little bit of advice. Wherever you are, whether you're debating on how to release them to do that or how do you right the ship concerning that, don't make it an emotional event for you, even if it is for them. Okay, don't get caught up in that. You make sure that they understand that you're trying to simply do not what you think is best, but what is absolutely concretely best as outlined in the Word of God. And morality is always outlined in the Word of God. And what is best for them. Once they understand that, you'll be in a very safe place. Yeah. All right, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of
Better Together.
Bye.